about what's going on, even if they do recognise there are some downsides. But in the blue, there's one there. Well, you can see from the title, let me just read it. How big data increases inequality and threatens democracy. So I've started with 5 very positive ones, but just from that title, that would be doom and gloom. Another one in blue, the sharing economy, the end of employment. So again, we have another doom and gloom one there, which is well argued. And then another one, the rise of robots, technology and the threat of mass unemployment. So you can see why I'm not going to come to any conclusions, because we have got this whole batch of stuff which says wonderful things and a whole batch of stuff which says not quite so wonderful things. Just to give us a hook, a departure, what do we mean by artificial intelligence? Well, it's an umbrella term, and as an umbrella term, there'll be nuances and interpretations. Under an umbrella, there'll be all sorts of things that people interpret it as. And as with beauty in the eye of the beholder, so is AI. So as we're in the hallowed halls of, the modern hallowed halls of Oxford, I thought I'd go to the one of the Oxford dictionaries to have a look. I thought that would be appropriate. And as you can see, it's up on the screen. I won't read it, but I will point out, I will select 1 or 2 points there. But the one which gets to me, first of all, is human intelligence. So we have performing tasks which would normally involve human intelligence, and that could be particularly challenging for us, whether we're accountants or any other type of profession. And then the decision making as well. I think that has an impact for the accounting and finance arena. So that gives us a hook. Let's start with a little bit of history. If I take you right the way back to 11th century, and I'm doing it here in, I think we have 2. We have AD, but we also have CE, the common era. So the 11th century there in China, and in the 15th century in Europe, the invention of the printing press. And of course, that was going to put a lot of people out of work, the people who used to write things. But of course, it opened up all sorts of opportunities. The world survived, even though they thought there would be dangers. And then something more agricultural, going back to the year 200 AD CE, the heavy plough on wheels. Just think what that did to farm labourers. Who would have been there shoveling away, but now all of a sudden it started to change. And then going back even before that, minus 240 as I've called it, the water wheel in Byzantium and Alexandria in Egypt, as to what opportunities that opened up. So we were already having mini industrial revolutions going on before the more recognised ones, and those ones there, you can see I've got it up on the screen there. We've got Industrial Revolution 1 with mechanisation and steam, followed by Industry 2, followed by Industry 3. We have there in 1870 mass production, automation, computers, electronics, and now the 4th Industrial Revolution, as it's being referred to, with a role for artificial intelligence to play a major role, and then the crunching of data, but not just the crunching, the selection of the data to crunch. Perhaps one of the challenges is to give the advert, we crunch it, and they will be able to see patterns, and they'll be able to make predictions about things from those patterns, but question, will it still take the human, whether it's an accountant in the accountancy profession or a doctor in the medical profession, to actually make the decision, to make the final interpretation. We've all seen things like space films where what's the one where it comes out? Alien, isn't it? It comes out of the stomach. That's and where you do get robots, androids who do seem to be able to just say things. Now, I don't know how far away that is, but it's not here just yet. So there will be a need for people at the moment. But interesting, a quote here I've taken from author James Wan. That data is the new economic moat. So people, organisations rather, who can get their data and stop other people having access to the data, because they're creating the moat around their castle, which is their strength. And if it's theirs, and other people can't access it, that's going to be particularly challenging for a number of organisations in an economic sense. Just want to finish off with a looking back before we look forward. A little bit of history. A number of people are visiting the UK, some people possibly for the first time. And one of the things I quite like is history. The Luddites, as you can see there, 1811 to 1812, they broke into, they were hand weavers who broke into factories where you had these new technological hand weaving factories and machines. And I don't know how governments would react these days, but to execute 17 of them, you know, some people might say a bit harsh. But then if you look in 1830, not that much later, machines that were being used for agriculture, 2,000 people put on trial because of the reactions all around the UK, 19 executed, and 481 transported to Australia. Do we have any colleagues from Australia here? We do, don't we? I wonder if there are any relations there in the distant part. But you can get extreme reactions, and something else I'll just linger on for a brief moment later on might cause us to say, whilst we might not get that sort of reaction, oh no, hang on, maybe we might get a reaction. So let's have a look at that in a moment. Again, being in Oxford, I thought, look at the Oxford Martin programme on technology and employment. That would seem appropriate given our location. And what they did here is they identified 702 jobs, and on a scale, a factor scale of 0 up to 2, they ranked them according to how likely it is that that job would be replaced by some form of automation. If you score 0, that's great, you're never going to be replaced by artificial intelligence. The higher you get to, to 1, 0 to 1, the higher you are, the closer you are to 1, the more chance there is of the job being replaced. So anybody who's a recreational therapist, so if you want to change careers now, that's a good point to do. You know, it's unlikely that you're going to be replaced. I haven't put all 702. I think it was about 18 on the list. If you're a hairdresser, 0.18, I think you're still fine there as well. So you can see the healthcare social workers. But let's move to the top end of the scale. And at the top end of the scale, what we see is with 0.99, 0.99, 0.99, telemarketers, hand sewers, title examiners, abstractor searchers, their jobs will go, and they probably started to go. But let's just pull a little bit down from that. And with there, you can see I've highlighted on 0.98, bookkeeping, accounting, and auditing clerks, and credit analysts also on 0.98. And I think we've already seen, particularly with, I mentioned that blockchain technology and some of the things that are going on in the auditing profession, being able to go through all sorts of documentation at ease and very quickly, that started to change that. And of course, credit analysts, machines are now doing so much in terms of the analysis, and that's likely to continue. If you do get a chance, that's a really interesting report to read, and we'll make the slides available afterwards, and I've got some of those references in there. Also in that report, it's quite interesting, 47% of total US employment is at risk. Now, just go back to what I said about the Luddites and the swing riots. So if 47% of the employment in your country is at risk, is everybody going to sit down and say, oh, that's fine. Yeah, we'll go and have a cup of tea. Yeah, or maybe we can't afford a cup of tea. Just interesting. And then wages and educational attainment will have a strong negative relationship with the probability of your job being automated. So that's good for those of us in universities, because the more people get into universities, they'll want to come to us to save their jobs being automated. Something else? This one came from a McKinsey report 2 years ago. And so, yes?
I'm very curious on your scale of 0 to 1. Where
not my scale, on the scale of the report.
On the scale that you show.
Yeah.
Where do faculty members stand?
Before I leave today, I've actually got the full report on my laptop. I'll go and have a look. But of course, as we all know, we're never arrogant, but we are irreplaceable.
I will be on tenterhooks until you reveal the answer.
Measure by Alexa, isn't it?
Another way of putting that is not so much we're irreplaceable, but of course, in our own ways, we are all unique. Yes. But this McKenzie report was interesting as well, because what we have here is applying expertise, an 18% chance, predictable physical work which can be automated, and what they did there was they linked that to finance and insurance, and it actually doesn't seem too bad with those figures that they have there. That's slightly at odds with some of the other reports. That's probably at the lower end of the scale. But when I went deeper into their report, 50% of staff time is used in finance and insurance to collecting and processing data, and of course the potential for automation there is very high. Because it takes up about 43% of the workers' time. Mortgage brokers, just to give you an example, I mean, anybody who's gone for a mortgage themselves and you've dealt with a mortgage broker, thinking what they do, 90% of the time is spent processing applications, because you're emailing them, you're ringing them up, you're trying to find out what's going on, and they're doing the other thing at the end of the line as well. So just to show that even in that routine stuff that goes on, it is going to happen. But something much more positive, robots are coming, rejoice, and that's actually the title of an article by Rachel Grimes, and she's trying to advise us how to prepare for that. And of course there will be automation, she acknowledges that, but she's saying that humans will be, I said about decision making, I said about interpreting, that humans will be right at the end of that information generated by AI. They'll offer non-automated human insight, and I guess we would think that would make sense. No robot at the moment could actually do that. But what's material here? What does it mean? So she gives one or two examples there. That clients will continue to look to human accountants for advice, and they won't just be looking for the machine information. As the lawyers would say about court cases, every case turns on its own fact, and whilst there may be commonalities of themes that we'll see in some of the stuff that comes out of the machines,